with that said, and all of our pages of notes, I hope you have a clean page ready because your first presenter of this event has been with CNC for a little over a year, so happy workiversary. He is the technology generalist, which means a lot of things. Yeah, but really what it means is that he is not just a wizard with data and analytics. He is the Gandalf, okay, of innovating systems and processes. He sets some KPIs to things that are seemingly unmeasurable. So giving your client success talk of the day is someone that, fun fact, as a kid, wanted to be a clown. And not just wanted to be a clown, but dedicated himself to being proficient. Not just able to kind of do, but proficient unicycler whilst juggling, which is a skill that he still possesses. And what transpired between clown and what he does now is a thing you'll have to ask him. Please give it up for Derek. You're so cool.
Hello. So who here has been to the doctor's office in the last year for the annual checkup? Well, you're supposed to. And when you go, you can expect the same things to happen. They're going to look at your vitals, they're going to look at your records, do some tests, and all this is so that they can make sure you're on track to be healthy. But now imagine, instead of going to the doctor's office like that, they don't do anything. You walk in, and unless you look physically ill, they have no way to know if you're sick or not. It'd be crazy. I mean, out of those two doctor's offices, which one would you guys choose? The ones that do all the tracking on you, or the ones that don't? So when we look at other industries, like the coaching industry, that can sometimes be something that's lacked. So let's look into what could happen. What could happen is you go into the sales process just jazzed. I mean, you're stoked. You're ready to you get on that sales call and the person connects with you and you're thinking, wow, I can actually do this. I can become what you say I can be. And I have someone to have my back. You're going to be my coach. A few hours later. It gets tough, right? After a few weeks in the program, not everyone completes it. People fall off. And we sometimes think to ourselves when that happens, it's unfortunate because we're a coach. We want everyone, we didn't sign up to just get quick cash. We signed up for this business to make an impact. And so when we have a client that struggles and maybe they're not communicating, maybe something happened in their life, we want to do something about it. And there's some coaches, not in this room, that choose to believe it's not on them. It's on the client. I mean, I can only give them all the resources. I can only provide them as much as I can. But at the end of the day, if they don't take action, that's just how it works. But then there's other coaches, the coaches that have been around for years, that really take ownership of the client's success. It's not good enough to hear that there might be an obstacle that they're facing. It's that they want to make it so good, the program so excellent, that even the hardest clients succeed. And in order to do that, they're going to leverage tracking, just like the doctor. If they want to make sure you're on track to be healthy, it's the same thing with your program. So I'm going to go through the 3 ways to measure clients. Out of all of the business, marketing, sales, and customer success, client success is actually one of the easiest ones to track, which is really cool. There's really 3 big metrics: program progress and time to completion. So how long does it take for them to go through each step of the program? And then how long does it take for them to get to each step of the program? Sometimes we think about completion rate, but the time to completion is huge. I mean, just think, if you gave yourself a week to do something or 2 months, you're more likely to get it done in a week. So our program, we should constantly be looking at how can we shorten the time it takes to get to a certain step of the program. And then customer satisfaction score. So now that we know they're going through the program, how are they enjoying it? Like how are they feeling within the program? That's really important. And if they aren't enjoying the program or they're not feeling like they're connecting with the coach or the program or just their own journey, we want to know that. And also ask why. Like, it's one thing to have a score, like a number, like, oh, I felt like a 3 today. But why did you feel a 3? Like, we need context, because that context allows us to improve the program. And then outcome percentages. Of course, as we're working on the program and we're improving it, what happens? Did the success rate go up? Did more people graduate? Did the churn, which is basically the term for like drop-off percentage, did that go down? Like, are we getting less people falling off? You got to make sure you have all these things tracked so you can measure performance. So let's start with the first one. I'm going to kind of dive deep into each one and actually go step by step with you so we can kind of build this out, because I think this could be done within a few days to get all of this tracking up. And what it can do for your business is just, that one extra person that succeeds because of this, that's just awesome. So program progress, time to completion. In order to start with this, you need to get really clear on what the steps are in your program. And that's just starting on paper. Like, if you have your notebook, you can start mapping it out right away. And we're going to go through an example of that right now. So I always, when I work with a new client, I love to do mapping. I mean, it's just such an easy way. We have our fingers, we can point, be like, yeah, that's where something's happening over there. That's where something's happening over here. And then at the end, you walk away and saying, oh, I can see everything. So that's what we're going to do right now, is map out the post-purchase journey. So what happens immediately after they buy? And I really want you to think about your own programs as we go through this and think, what are the steps that they actually go through, like the tangible steps. So the first one on the list that I'm sure for all of you is enrolled. They have to start. And not all companies start, like, you don't just self-start right away. Some programs can be on a monthly basis. Some can be quarterly. So I'm a huge chess fan. I've been playing chess since I was like a kid. And I'm going to use a chess coach as an example for this mapping. So for this chess coach, they do a quarterly cohort. So every quarter, that's when it starts. So the next one would be like November, or whatever the next quarter is, January. And that would be when the enrolled date hits. Once the person is enrolled, think about what happens next in the process. They're usually going to be some form of onboarding. Like, they got to, now that actually everything's becoming real, they have to get their logins, they have to do certain steps. For this chess coach, the 3 things they do is they do email with logins, so everyone's hooked up. They have the intro module, which is really covering this. It's like a summary for the program, but also really hyping it up, getting the energy, like the sales process, you're so stoked. We got to have that throughout the whole thing. So intro module for this client, and then the 30-minute call with coach. Just a way for them to get on, make sure that they know what's going to happen, they can answer any questions. They made a huge purchase in this program. They want to feel like they're taken care of. So that's the onboarding. Now after this, it can go a few ways. So you can have, depending on your program, a few different steps. You could, if you're course heavy and you rely on like a program, it'd be easy to put down the modules of the program or the phases. If there's a bunch of modules, group them up into like a few phases. That's one example. Also, if you're like, let's say in the health or fitness space and maybe courses aren't as big, it's more like you're doing stuff on a weekly basis, then write down the weeks. So it'd be week 1, week 2, something like that. So for the chess coach, it's watch module 1 videos in Kajabi. That's how we know that they've completed module 1. And you're going to keep going through this process. Just really think, what are the actions that they take? Like, they complete something, right? So what are those completions? So for module 2, we added an extra one. So not only are they going to watch the module 2 videos, but they're also going to play 10 games a day. And for them to be successful, that's what we want them to do. So we could start already thinking of ways to, track those 10 games a day. Like, that's another tracking point that we can see, hey, they've done the modules, but have they played 10 games? So it's this mapping process, like, you can do it over and over, but it really helps you like get clear and clear on what the expectations are supposed to be. And then I just continue this on, change it up with daily matches against the coach. Oh, and this is a cool one. Okay, so I see this a lot working with coaches, is that there's a curriculum, like there's an actual course that their people are going through, and then the course stops, like they finish that module, but then there's still a piece of the program where they have to like implement. And I feel like sometimes we assume, oh, they completed the last module of the course, like 100%. That's their client progress, that's their program progress, 100%. But that's not true. You know, we didn't sell them on, we're gonna help you complete a course. We sold them on whatever the transformation was gonna be. So really note down those additional steps that happen if you do have a program that ends early. So that's what the rating climb phase is for the chess coach. So after they play, after they go through a few weeks of these modules, the next step is to play rated games and to improve. And the whole selling point of this program was to get a 1600 rating in chess. So that's the goal, and that's how we can deem if it is successful or not. So the graduation step, the last step of the customer journey, don't just write, yeah. You got everything? Yeah, of course. So the last step, don't just write down graduated, write down what it takes to graduate. What's that one thing? Because that'll really help with what we're about to go over next with tracking. So that's the process. It's really just sitting down and mapping those steps out and thinking what's the tangibles, what's the actions that they're doing that we can track. And not even track, like, so I'm a tech person, so I love to go straight into the nitty gritty, but just think back, like, what are they even expecting to happen? Like, what should be going on throughout the program? And you'll find a lot. So now that we have everything mapped out, we put it into a table. My favorite, I love tables. Because with tables, you can see everything. Men lie, women lie, but numbers don't. So this is a really cool way to see your data in a table. All it is like pulling up a Google sheet, having the name, and then the steps laid out as columns. That's all it is. But the cool part about this is you notice that everything has date stamps. So this is the secret sauce. This is like, instead of tracking yes or no, putting ones if they've done it, you just put the date. And the date is really useful for two reasons. You can do two formulas with dates. You can just count how many dates are in a column, which gives you the total. And you can also subtract one date from another to give you how long it takes to go from one step to the next. And a lot of this is really easy. If you have any Zapier knowledge or someone on your team that knows automation Zaps, you could just hook this right up to any time they complete like a Kajabi module, finds their name, timestamps it. And it just does that over and over. And this way, like, you can literally, after this, you get this table, you can have this entire thing visualized to know immediately where the bottleneck is. So right now we can see that 67% of people that have enrolled have onboarded. So there's a minority of people that haven't. Like, that's crazy. And I see this a lot. Like, we start to realize when we look at the percentages, certain people shouldn't be stuck between modules. Like, there must be something going on, and immediately lets your entire team know where to put their energy. Because when you try to solve a problem, like, just coming from a data background, usually when people try to solve problems, they look at their experiences and how they would see it working. But then when they look at the numbers of what other people have said or what other people have experienced, it's different. Like, we're not the average of our program. So one other really cool tip is numbers help you pull away from the emotion of you having pride in building a great program to you seeing what actually is happening in the program. And that's okay. The clients want you to build a better program. They're not saying otherwise. So as you go through, and you'll see I kind of layer on each of these things we just talked about, the next thing I do is I put on the actual time to each step. So I can see here, I know it's a little small, but like, it takes 10 days to get to module 2. Like, that seems pretty long. Like, maybe I only wanted the module to take 5 days, or maybe this is monthly, like a several month program, and I noticed that it racks up 3 or 4 months. Like, yeah, maybe 70% of the people have completed it, but 4 months to get to a certain step. Like this is the insight that you're able to look at on a weekly, even monthly basis to get ideas of how to improve. And then, okay, so this one's really cool. I love the first win rate. It's like my favorite metric. So there's a lot of metrics on the board, right? And in a company, you all want to have like a North Star, like be really specific in what you're after. And the cool piece about the first win rate is, well, what is a first win? What is a first win? So a first win is in the program, there's going to be a point in the program where the client hits a certain step, and after that step, they're just going to fly through the rest. Like the fall off rate drops dramatically. Like you can just tell, like, oh yeah, when they get to this step, like life becomes easier for all of us. So that makes it the first win. Like if we can get people to that step, we're good. And it makes it a lot easier for the team to rally behind, because if you're looking at graduation as your metric, that's too late in the game. But if people are falling past the first win rate without completing it, like because we know how long it takes and what the percentage should be, we can tell all the people that have gone past that point but haven't had the first win yet. And those are all people that are going to fall off potentially. And you have the chance to bring them back on before they do. So that's the power of having a first win. That in the technical term, it's like the leading indicator versus the lagging indicator. So we want to focus on the leading indicators because that's what we can change today. All right, so program progress and time to completion. Makes sense. But this next one is really cool because while people are going through the program, we saw there's some percentage drop-offs, right? Well, why? How it can be an easy way for me as a business owner to quickly know why they're not going through without having to do a full-scale investigation, right? And that is through the customer satisfaction score. We want to have every client have all their information of how they've been enjoying the program, how they feel in the program, how they feel with the coach, and why. Now, I know we all love the idea of having surveys, and like it sounds great, but everyone in the room, even chatting with you guys kind of today about this, is that there's a bit of survey bias. Like everyone knows that the people that write Yelp reviews are usually like really eccentric and not the most, like not the main core of people. And like even people that have reviewed your stuff, it could be all fives, like just love it, super excited, without even really thinking deeply about how it is. And then the people that have had experiences that maybe aren't too bad, but not also great, they're just not gonna leave a review. Like, you know? So how can we make sure that every single person fills it out? And this is the way. You can either integrate it in two ways. So if you have a coach-heavy program, then I would recommend integrating it with a quiz. Now, the cool part about quizzes is that when they're going through the program, they're going to hit certain steps in the program, right? Like they finished module 1. And then it only makes sense, like in programs, to have a little quiz, a check-in, saying, hey, we're going to ask you a few questions over the last module to make sure you understand what we're talking about. And that's great. They go on, they start, and they're thinking logically. And then once they get through those first logical-based questions, we throw in some of those emotional ones. Like real quick, hey, how do you feel about the program? Hey, how do you feel about your experience with the coach? How do you feel about your own personal journey so far? Like just throwing that in at the end of the quiz, it's like they're logically thinking, so it switches their mind to feel more emotional, and it doesn't give them enough time to kind of get protective of how they actually feel. So you get a more honest, trustworthy response by doing this. And of course, if they're putting a lower score, you know, collecting why, asking why. Asking why is like one of the best questions. And so every time they say how they feel, you know, ask a question afterwards. Well, I guess the TV's biased. So the other piece of the equation, that was quizzes, right? But not everyone has to do the quiz thing. Like there's another way, and that's through integrating tracking with a tracker. So a tracker is, let me give you an example. So if I have a fitness program and it's like 13 weeks, I want you to get to this certain stage. So every week I'm gonna be measuring your weight, measuring how many workouts you did, like on a weekly basis, coming in and collecting that information. You could add that to that. Just at the end of the tracker, do the exact same thing. Say, you know, how do you feel about the program? How do you feel about this week? Like you can get that specific information the same way, and you're still keeping it part of the program. Like they have to fill out the tracker. That's how it works. And at the end of the tracker, they answer those questions. So those are the two ways that really help manage the survey bias, because now we're getting tons of them. And the cool thing, like with CNC, we've implemented this, and it's really cool just to see the constant feed of people that have submitted inquiries, and even the coaches are sometimes surprised. Because when we try to get insight from the business, you usually want to ask your coach, or if you have one. If you're the coach, you ask yourself. But if you have coaches, you want to ask like what's going on, and coaches are always going to be positive. So it's sometimes hard to like see the actual issues in their words, So let me give you an example. Here's just kind of a screenshot example. If I was the chess coach, what I would do, the first module is about chess fundamentals. So I would be asking, like, what's your first move in the Queen's Gambit? Anyone know? There you go. What is en passant? There you go. Who is the current world champion? No, someone say me? There you go. How do you feel? And so you get the point. Like you're basically asking these questions that tied to the program. But at the very end, you want to ask, how do you feel about certain things? The feeling is important. Like, how do you feel? Because when people say, like, how's it going? How's the program? Oh, it's good. How do you feel about the program? Oh, well, I feel, you start to process your emotions about it. And that's huge. And you'll see 1 through 5. Another trick of the trade. Don't do 1 through 10. People pick 7. You want to have a real clear understanding of if they're enjoying it or not. So a 4 or a 3 is a pretty significant change. And so we've seen a lot of people fill out 3s and 2s or 5s. But it allows us to get a better scoring of how they're feeling. And so we take all this information, and we could do the same thing, put it into a table, put it into a dashboard. But there's another really cool thing you can do with this. Oh yeah, so there's the dashboard, unlike the other table, you're just gonna be putting in all the entries. So the same name could happen multiple times. And so I would have a type form, if you're using that as a form, or Google form, or whatever form software you use. Really easy just to take the answers and zap it to a Google Sheet. And then we're able to analyze it later. Now, the other really cool part about this is that you can have Slack channels for it. So like a lot of people think when they think tech and dashboards, they think that I'm just gonna recommend them make this elaborate dashboard. But Slack is one of the coolest ways to get insights on your customers, because you can treat it as like almost a pulse. Like you get a pulse on every day. You can read it as an owner and see, how are people going? How are people feeling? And so what I recommend is you have 2 Slack channels. One's for low score people that have a low score, and people that have a high score. So have 2. And the reason for that is you can have 2 different objectives. If people are like all 5, just jazzed, just stoked with the program, get them on a call. Get them recording a testimonial. Because you'll be able to get a testimonial right then and there of how excited they are. And the big thing is when you start to scale, you'll come across a lot more clients with different issues. And most of our programs are designed around each module solving a specific issue. So at the end of the program, everyone kind of just says kind of similar things. But if you can get a testimonial at the end of the specific module that answers, that solves a problem, then that's going to be great to put in your catalog of testimonials to send to for your sales team. Because they can say, oh, this person's facing this objective. We have a video talking just about that. Let's bring it in. So things like that can be really useful for improving business and having a pulse on what's going on. So here's an example. Bruce Banner, he was in my program. If you don't know who Bruce is, I'll tell you later. Program experience, good. Mentors, amazing. His was great except slow website. I don't know. So yeah, that's basically like the rundown of what you see. So now that we covered customer satisfaction score, and if a low score, why? Let's move on to outcome percentages. So I love this one because it's at the end, but it's the easiest one. All we're gonna do is take the table that we made on the first one and add one column, just current status. And current status is important, right? This is something that I would be looking at every day. Just like you're supposed to look at your bank account every day, I would look at your clients every day. And just make sure that all of them are on track, or if they're not, to mark it as so. And so a few examples of what those could be. It could be active, they're still in the program. It could be pause, maybe they're taking a break. They could graduate, which is obviously what we want, as well as upsold is another one I put on there, so you want to upsell. And then the last two we don't want, right? We don't want drop-offs and refunds, but we want to track them, so that way we can get accurate data and be able to see what we can do to improve. And then the formula on the right, that's the real easy way. All you're doing is just counting it up. So if you want to know the active percentage, just count the number of people that have active, and then divide it by all the clients, and you'll get the total. You'll get the percentage. And then you'll be able to build something even cool and more elaborate, where you can have the post-purchase journey up top, the first win rate. You can go through and have the different conversion rates, and even at the bottom, you saw it's a little cut off, but you can see some of the feedback pieces of it, where it has their score and their responses in like a table, nice and clean. As well, that CSAT, it's in like a little neon purple. It's 47%. All that number is taking every single score across all dimensions and then dividing it by the total. So we can see that on right now, this chess program, I don't know, 47%. It's a little weak. How can we improve that, right? And so that's where all of this comes together. You're able to use all of this to help you just have another lens to the business. Because as coaches, we usually have experience coaching ourselves, and we have good experience. So it's not like I'm saying to not rely on your knowledge and rely on what you know, but take into account all the hard work that your clients have given you. They've taken the time to give feedback, and that's where you can really leverage this to improve. So now we covered the 3 ways to measure clients. The next steps. So I would really recommend going through these 3 metrics in your business, doing the mapping, and getting to a point where at least you feel like you understand how this is happening, like understand what is going on in your business, getting that real world perspective today. I want you to then, when you make changes, that's the first thing, right? We see a hole, we're like, oh my gosh, the onboarding is like super low. You want to do a lot of things. I recommend going a little slower and doing one big change at a time. That way you could immediately see, or not immediate, but over the next few days, see if the numbers look better, if the numbers go down. It lets you identify the certain points of what you're trying to improve and see if that thing is what did it. And then also, a few ways to really go beyond this. So one of the things that'll happen, of course, as you guys all scale, is that you'll want to hire. And while metrics are great for understanding performance and a lot of the stuff we just talked about, I found working with companies that are doing like $1 million a month for coaching, all of them really use the numbers even more so to make sure that the employees are on track. And it makes it a lot easier to have a conversation with someone that, like for a coach, if you hire a coach, you're able to tell if the numbers look good because you can aggregate by it. You can say, hey, just show me all the data that's tied to that one coach. Show me their clients. And you can see that, oh, that's odd. One coach has a lot lower people making it through the program, or it takes a lot longer for them to get through the program. That gives you an immediate insight of something to look into and talk about it with them. Like, it's huge. So aggregate these metrics for each coach. That's something I would recommend like learning about. And then also lastly, integrating this directly with your CRM instead of using a Google Sheet. So for now, you can start with a Google Sheet, it's fine. But as you grow, you'll want to have it just be cohesive with your entire tech stack. And so there's, not just client success, there's marketing and sales. That's also important to track. And so having it all in one place is ideal. But for now, you can get away with it. I mean, just this data alone is huge. And I have a surprise for all of you. So I saw some of you taking pictures, but don't worry, I'm going to give you that entire dashboard for free. So all you got to do is take a little screenshot of this, and there's a Loom video on the page that tells you how to set it up. So it's going to be a Google Sheet with the exact columns I set up. Yeah. And so you set it up, you're going to log in, it's going to say make a copy. You're going to have your own Google Sheet, I don't have access to it. And there's a few little things you do to create the dashboard, the same one that you saw up there with all the design and everything, within like a minute. And you'll be able to then start tracking your clients there to get a start. And if you do have a tech person on your team or someone that knows analytics or knows how to do like basic Zapier stuff, you can take this really far because all the formulas are there. There's nothing hidden. So you have full access, and it's not, I'm not in it. So, but of course, I will help you if you have any questions throughout the rest of the program or even afterwards. I would love to sit and look at it because just maybe a few little tweaks, you can like see how it would work for your business, and then you can get the same level of reporting that CNC has. And hopefully with the real goal, of course, not just making more money, but being able to make a better impact with all of your clients. And even 10, I know it's all numbers, like 10% improvement in success. Those are people. Like there's 10%, that's people that might not have made it through the program, but because of you, like a doctor, checking their pulse, checking all those vitals beforehand so that you prevent them from falling off track when they could have, that's just magical. That's what I think really being a top level coach is. And that's how like people in CNC, they've been around year after year and people wonder why. That's one of the reasons. So thank you. And then if anyone has any questions, some questions? Yeah, for sure. Anyone have questions? I am, just a background, I guess I didn't cover that at all. I help with technology and analytics for the company, for CNC. So anything marketing, sales, customer success tracking wise, that's what I help with. So if anyone has any questions, yeah, and I'll be in the workshop. Some of the stuff does require like looking at a screen, so I get that. So it won't hurt my feelings if no one comes up. All right, thank you.
What's up, man? So I'm Ryan. I have a Top Earners Academy that I call Fit to Fortune. I teach gym trainers how to be online trainers. Okay. And my question is more about your first win rate. So if I'm thinking about my program, if it's not monetary, the first like 4 modules, what's some of those first win things that I can implement? Right now, I have them create an ebook, but what you think, if anything else that maybe could be that first win to keep them more sticky into the program?
Yeah, so I mean, when you're selling them on the program, what are they expecting? Like, what are you promising them?
To at least do 10K revenue.
Okay, so to make money.
Make money, right.
So if they have they not made money before?
Not online, they're in the gym trainers.
So maybe making that first $1 could be it?
Okay, so but if it's not monetary, so if like in the first 4 days of the program, and we're doing this first win thing, what else could it be?
Well, that might be, so eventually they will be making money, right?
Correct. Like, so around like week 3 of the program, we'll launch an online thing for them. But if it's maybe I should do it earlier for them to make that first online dollar, because like if they don't have a digital product because they're in the gym, we have to create that first.
Right, yeah. So I guess the first win can be a little far out, and that's the eye-opening thing about it. Like when I heard your promise, it's to make X amount of dollars. So it should be a small piece of that makes them feel success. So if that's a month later, that's the first win. It seems longer, and that's your goal would be how can we bring that as close as possible for them? Because you can make up your own first win, but they won't see it that way. Like it's like, oh, I have a product. Like that's not what you promised them. You promised them to make money, right?
Okay.
So just think about that promise as like, how can I piece apart that promise to be the first win?
Okay, so I guess so it doesn't have to literally be the first 4 modules. It just needs to be a first win. Okay.
Exactly.
Cool.
Like with CNC, it's like launching the first promo. Like there's a lot of steps before that. But we found when people finally start the promo, like that's when they actually get, like we got to get them there as soon as possible, right?
Cool, gotcha. Appreciate
and it can change. Like if you have a first win now, and it's like no longer, like you realize that there's actually a better first win, feel free to adjust it,
Okay, cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome possum, y'all. Well, it is that time for the lunch, for feeding your bodies just like we've been feeding your minds. And so there's lots of options for being off campus. Then for those that I said I had a list for being on is going to be Shangri-La, BJ, Raina, Amanda Kaufman, Sean Bray, Justice Severin, and Stephen Blanchard. You guys are the ones that are going to be invited to the lunch that's here. Everyone else, Have a beautiful, wonderful lunch. We are going to be back at 1:15. What time? 1:15. Sorry, what was that? 1:15. See you guys bright and early at 1:15.